everyone, whether you've joined us or not as yet. We're live.
Yay, we're here. Okay, we'll just wait for our viewers to join us. We are on our Seeds of Thought session on a Saturday evening, and we've got a lovely topic today. I think we all need to, I think it's resonate with each one of us, correct?
Oh, absolutely, and I'm pretty confident that the topic that we have for today is both simple as well as complex. So it all depends on how we approach it and how we interpret the subject, and we break down the words, so to speak, that makes it easier for us to understand. So no matter how complex it might sound on the surface, when we dig beneath the surface, it's not that difficult.
Not that difficult or difficult?
It's not that difficult. Let me put it in a more positive way. It's pretty easy to understand.
Okay, so
the discipline really is in being able to do this on a regular basis, not just once in a while.
Yeah, so that means it requires effort more often than just occasionally.
Yes, that's correct.
Like a daily practice, or at least a weekly practice.
There's in my experience, there's always been ample opportunity to ensure daily practice.
Daily practice.
So if we are in the habit of developing a discipline, to ask better questions of ourselves, ask better questions of others, perhaps. Understanding people a little better, being non-judgmental about people, then it becomes a discipline, and when you really need it, you process it much quicker.
So from what I'm gathering, the reflection, it will be great to reflect daily, but the application actually is daily.
And the application is daily.
The application is daily. Maybe we are not always in that heightened awareness mode where we are reflecting at all times. But I think if we reflected often enough, we can keep the awareness going on a daily basis, because I think it requires a daily awareness of ourselves and of our interactions with everybody.
That's correct. And, we're all familiar with this little cliche, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Right? But in actual fact, knowledge by itself is not power. It's the application of the knowledge that is real power.
Power. Yeah.
So therefore, having the awareness or having the ability to dig deeper and arrive at a much enhanced awareness situation, that's knowledge. You know how to do it.
Yeah.
But being able to apply it on a regular basis, because we all know sometimes our emotional state can get in the way.
Yeah, can hinder our application of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to the
quote for today.
The quote for
Should
today
I read it?
that we'll be working on.
Or should we wait for some viewers to join us, some more viewers to join us?
I think we can.
Go ahead. All right.
I think we can read it, and when we have some more viewers joining us,
repeat.
We can.
Yeah, because it's always good to have a reminder, right?
That's right.
So it goes this way: beneath every behavior, there is a feeling, and beneath each feeling is a need. And when we meet that need, rather than focus on the behavior, we begin to deal with the cause, not the symptom. It's by, the name's not written here.
Ashleigh Warner.
Ashleigh Warner. What a beautiful, it's quite profound, and like Tony was saying, it's simple, yet it requires dedicated effort. So What are your feelings on this? Beneath every behavior, there is a feeling. And beneath each feeling is a need. Let's tackle that. Or I don't know, how do you want to go for it?
Well, it's arriving at the need. That's important.
It's
right?
the first step.
Yeah. So the whole point of any particular situation or circumstance that elicits a certain kind of behavior or an emotion, especially when the emotion can be stressful to us, the importance of arriving at the cause of
the need,
why the need that creates this kind of a response or a behavior becomes important. And it becomes important for us to understand for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So first step is to understand the need, and then it would be to identify what created that need.
Yes.
Right? What was the cause? Where is the starting point? So it's like going to the root cause of it.
Right.
Right?
Okay. And so that is just the one side of the argument. Okay, addressing it within ourselves.
Yeah.
And then the other side of the argument is when there is another person involved, and how we approach and how we understand how they apply how their behaviors, I should say, how their behaviors and their emotions come into play, and how it affects us.
Oh, okay.
Right. Because then we also need to understand, apart from our need and how it's affecting us, but we also have to understand what is their need that's giving rise to a specific behavior
from our end.
That's making this, that's causing this particular emotion within us.
Yeah.
So we need to understand ourselves and the others.
How it's impacting both ways.
Both ways, that's right. Yeah. So if it originates from us, the impact that it has on someone else.
Yeah.
Right? But we are in that at that particular state and in that particular situation, we are more concerned with, and we should be, about how we are creating the scenario. We are creating the situation. But if it originates with someone else, then we've got to understand ourselves and how the emotion plays out within ourselves. And we have to understand what the need of the other person is that's creating or causing him or her to behave or to say the things that affect us. So
realistically, how often do we keep that awareness two ways? It's a tough one, right?
Realistically, how often do we keep that two
that's
ways?
not a wrong question. How often?
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, keeping that awareness not only about yourself, but also of the other person, it's quite a tough one, right?
Again, it comes back to how do you make a regular practice of it. So let's just go back and read out the quote again.
Okay, sure. All right. Beneath every behavior, there is a feeling. And beneath each feeling is a need. And when we meet that need, rather than focus on the behavior, we begin to deal with the cause, not the symptom. So in this quote, they are referring to the symptom as the behavior.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
So the behavior is the symptom or our conditioned response to a particular situation. And under that conditioned response lies a need. And that need further beneath has a cause where it all originated.
Yes. I mean, it's to
You
put
really
it.
break it down.
Yeah. To put it in simple terms, what's the most common gripe that we have with doctors?
What is that?
Yeah, it's
Not
if you have a headache. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
using the simplest of predicaments. If you have a
Yeah.
headache and you go to a doctor and say, "Doc, I've got a headache," doc's going to pull out his 2 aspirins and say, "Here you go on your bike." Yeah, but
Or they would say you're stressing too much. Now the stress is such a wide word, right? Like it can be anything. It could be triggered by for umpteen number of reasons. So
yeah. So when the doctor tells you, right, you've got a headache.
Yeah.
But your digestive system is the cause of it. I mean, how do you respond to something like that? Now that, in real life, when it comes to your emotions and behaviors,
yeah,
that's when the challenge arises, because that's when you need to know yourself better. Yeah. That's when your self-realization becomes important, and having this awareness, this self-awareness, helps you to understand the cause in yourself, and as well as be non-judgmental and arrive at a good understanding about someone else's behavior or cause. A little later on, I just want to make this clarification and just emphasize a little bit.
Yeah.
In the workplace, of course.
Uh-huh.
In the workplace, of course, if let's say if I had to give someone else feedback. Yeah, if I had to give someone else feedback in the workplace, I would be addressing the actual behavior. Right? There's no time, or I wouldn't say there's no time. Perhaps there is time if you're a good people person or a good people manager.
Right.
You can go through the process.
Right.
But in general, the behavior is being addressed.
Right.
Okay, so for now, we're not going to talk or we're not going to discuss so much about addressing the behavior, but rather digging a little deeper as to understanding what brings about this particular behavior.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's a conditioned method, right?
Yeah.
Right from childhood.
Yeah.
If you want, say, attention, you perhaps, however you've sort of built up a method where, I want attention from my parents or from my teachers or whatever, certain methods or certain behaviors got reinforced, and led to you feeling that this is the best way to get attention, right? So the need at that time was attention, and their particular behavior was reinforced, and that has become a pattern
in life and ongoing.
Yeah. And then it reflects in relationships, in work, and elsewhere too. I mean, you probably have adjusted it a little bit, but deep down there's a trigger from there.
That's correct, and that's why the importance of having this regular practice of understanding yourself.
Yeah.
So the knowledge of going about how you create on a regular basis, on a daily basis, the process that takes you through your self-awareness and your self-realization becomes very important, because when you're habituated to that particular process, then you deal with this much quicker and kind of naturally.
So what thought crossed my mind is that means if you're aware if a particular behavior of yours brings out a certain response from the people around you, and it's like you see that when I behave in this particular way, I almost always receive this kind of response. Yeah. And so that would be a nice place to start reflecting, like, why is it that when I do it this way, I always receive this kind of response? I think that's a good place to start. The self-awareness.
Self-awareness. The importance again of having the self-awareness. Yes, in understanding your behavior that gives you a repetitive type of response
Reaction,
or a reaction from someone else. But also to ensure that from within we break the habit, or we break the connection that drives this kind of behavior, or
absolutely.
that encourages someone else to respond in a certain way. Yeah. So I want to put this question out, and I'd really like to get some feedback. So type in your responses. Which is easier to manage to understand the feeling and the cause, or the feeling and the need beneath within ourselves, or to understand the feeling and the need beneath from someone else?
Which one is easier?
Which one's easier to manage? Or which one's easier to understand?
We'd love to know what all of you think. What is yours?
Well, if you were to ask me, I would say it's easier to get around the situation when it's someone else, for a simple reason. For a simple reason is that it's harder for us as individuals to have an honest self-appraisal. It's because we find it difficult to recognize that, hey, you know what, this kind of behavior, or this kind of emotion, or this kind of need beneath that emotion may not be serving me too well, simply because it's coming from a place of ego.
Okay.
So when we have an honest self-appraisal, then it becomes easier to get into that honest self-appraisal situation.
Right.
Is a little harder with ourselves, because in either way we are self-critical about ourselves, and we don't give ourselves enough of credit.
I think that's the key. We tend to be harder on ourselves, and we are a little more forgiving towards others.
Yeah, we are.
Right.
And I'll just go to the comments that we have. Okay, and you'll have to excuse me if I take my eyes off the screen. So
so I was asking Tony about what did he feel? Which one is easier? Is it easier to self-reflect, or is it easier to notice it in others? And he felt it was with others. And I think in our discussion we realized that we tend to be harder on ourselves, and we find it harder to be sort of we expect more out of ourselves. But there is also another part where deep down we want someone else to reach out and help us.
And we all thrive on love and connection.
We want someone to reach out and care for us, and that is again a behavior or a need.
It is, it's one of our human needs, right? And okay, let me just go to the comments over here. How to be self-aware. I see that people are always looking at other people's behavior without looking at their own behavior.
Okay.
And the follow-up comment, it comes from practice to be self-aware. I'm now more self-aware. So more power to you if you are more self-aware, because you're well on your way to in a state of improved and enhanced emotional intelligence, where you can self-aware and self-manage even in critical situations.
So like how the point was made that people are they don't want to look at themselves, and they want to find the gaps in someone else. I think that's what was being said there. Absolutely. I think it's a generalization. We can't really say that we are harder on ourselves and we are more forgiving to the others. It depends on each one's life's experiences. If there are some who want more recognition or awareness coming from someone else, then there are some who are able to be more forgiving towards others and not towards themselves. So I think it's your own life's experiences, and I think that is very important, to be able to observe the pattern, joining the dots to your life's experiences.
But it's harder. Okay, yes, from a cognitive state, you can connect the dots. If you give some time to self reflection.
Yeah.
But what about conditioning that goes a little further back to like, say, to your childhood, to your early childhood? How about the conditioning that builds in from there that you might not realize is impacting the way you feel and impacting your need for love and connection, or your need for security and stability in life?
So let me share what I tend to do, just in case if it helps. What I tend to do is, we're not going to be able to change all our behavioral patterns, right? We kind of go one step at a time. So what I tend to do is, first I want to recognize which behaviors I myself am not happy with coming from me.
Right.
So again, there's an honest reflection. Like, I tend to be XYZ. I tend to be, say, edgy when this is happening around me. So acknowledging to myself that this is a behavior that I want to make a difference in. Starting from there. And then trying to see that why certain circumstances trigger that behavior in me.
Right. Okay.
Then that helps me to get to the point that what exactly what need am I trying to fulfill there? Okay. Once I've identified that, then I'm able to really, probably that helps me to go deeper into maybe my childhood or certain experiences where that particular need could have originated. Yeah. So the first step is acknowledging to myself that this behavior that I have, I want to change. So it's not I want to change because the others are not appreciating it in me. It's because I personally don't feel good about having it within me. And of course, added on that it does not always get received in a kind way.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were to simplify that, how do you arrive at that kind of an understanding? So I would put it as it's a two-pronged question. So what puts me into my zone, right? What makes me happy, right? What gets me going?
Okay.
In the most positive of ways.
Yeah.
Right? So now that I know what makes me happy and what puts me into the zone and what gets me all motivated and and fills me up with drive and with passion, what upsets this balance?
Okay.
So once you know what's good for you and what really, really drives you forward, then you understand what upsets that balance. So when you know what puts you out of sync, then it becomes a little easier to address this particular issue. And going back to what you had said earlier, to try and then connect the dots to incidents in the past. And see if similar situations or similar events have been caused because of this particular issue.
Yeah. That really helps to break it down. Makes sense. Absolutely.
And I always have this particular question to throw out to people, and the question is fairly simple. what makes me proud of myself? And this is something that you should understand and ask of yourself. What makes you proud of yourself? Even if your outcome or your objective was not fulfilled.
Okay.
Yeah. So that really puts you into that frame of mind that, like, irrespective of what's happening,
what the result was.
Yeah. Irrespective. Okay, so this was my objective. I didn't get it. Am I less? Has my value gone down? Oh. So what makes you who you are, or what makes you feel who you are, the uniqueness in you, irrespective of outcomes.
Right. But also, what if during childhood, that kind of a situation where you work towards a certain outcome, but it did not result in it, and you did not get a good reaction at that time from, say, teachers or the peers or whatever, how do you think that particular child would be carrying a behavior towards failures or towards unfulfilled outcomes?
Right. See, now that is a conditioning that can be imprinted.
Yeah.
Yes. But at the same time, that is a conditioning that can be reversed.
Of course, everything can be reversed with awareness.
Sure, with awareness, and again with and you touched upon that earlier, when you get positive validation from others.
Yeah.
So then you feel better about yourself.
Or like you said, when you feel good about yourself no matter what. Because I think the validation needs to come from within more than from the outside.
Yes, but we do know for a fact
that
life is what it is. There are people who require the external validation more than they give themselves the internal validation.
Yeah.
And then there are other people whose internal validation is much stronger than the external validation
requirement.
And I think that's where you have your introverts and your extroverts imposing themselves or showing up in the world.
Yeah, you're right.
So the introverts are more internally the validation comes from within. While the extroverts tend to require the validation from external surroundings, external circumstances.
But like earlier I was saying, my own process that made me think, like, who would I be influenced? Like, supposing it's mainly your loved ones, people who you trust. Loved one means people who you trust.
Okay.
Who have your best interest at heart. I'm more likely to take their reaction towards me at with certain behaviors as a point of note that I probably need to look into this. So looking at both sides, going back to your first in the beginning when you were saying is first the two parts to it. One is reflecting on yourself and seeing where do I need to make some shifts, and then what did they say or do that triggered that in me.
Yeah.
And so understanding that some part of it, onus is not completely on me, it's also coming from the other side. Right? So it's a two-way process.
It's always going to be a two-way process when there is someone else involved.
Yeah.
And yes, when the information or the feedback comes from a third party, then depending on the relationship that you have with that person and the level of trust, that can impact how strongly the messages stick.
What if the second party or the third party, I'm going to talk about it on a completely different level, and that is the universe.
Yeah, what if?
Yeah? Therefore, you feel you're trying so hard to achieve something, but I think the universe is against me. I'm just not getting what I'm working towards.
You're right. So what's wrong with the universe? The universe just doesn't get me.
So that's a tough one, right? Where you feel completely alone. But that is where you really have to know that what is the need? What is it that you're trying to truly fulfill? And I think that's where the human needs, the emotional influencers, come very strongly in my field of work, at least.
And that's spot on. That's where your human needs come in. And once more, when the universe is sending you a message, how do you actually recognize that this message is for you?
Yeah. So repetitive. I don't want to use the word failure. Repetitive experiences, either in relationships or health, or even in finances, or how you feel about what's going around in the world, are clear signs that certain part of your need, the cause, is triggering that repetitive experience.
And that's where your honest self-appraisal becomes more important. To put things in the right perspective. And more often than not, the reasons we feel disagreement or not in sync with the universe, again, let's just say the universe, is because we are expecting a certain kind of answer from the universe, and the response that the universe is giving us does not fit within our concepts of what's right or what should be done. Or the messages from the universe are totally something that we haven't considered before. So recognizing it for what it is becomes important.
So that's a tough, because that one requires total self-reflection, because there's no it's not another person in your life who's making all that happen. So therefore it's an interaction with this energy which you are also part of.
Yeah, and that's right. And it's being able to recognize and accept that there is a higher consciousness at play, or we have the universe feeding us messages or giving us messages, and then it becomes incumbent upon ourselves. It's up to us to start to connect the dots.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why for the viewers who don't know what emotional influencers is, that I made a reference to is the 6 human needs, or in the consciousness realms, I put it down to 8 emotional needs. And so if you're interested in knowing more about it, we actually have a workshop, a 3-hour workshop on identifying your emotional influencers. So I think that really helps you to get to know yourself better and reflect from that perspective.
It does.
It definitely enriched my process of self-reflection.
Yeah, it does, because it really opens up your eyes to the different kinds of needs that we all have.
Yeah.
Where in the back of our minds we may have understood that these needs are in play.
Yeah.
But it becomes obvious when we can identify these needs specifically, so that we attribute which need is causing what kind of a behavior. And subsequently or consequently a reaction or a response in return.
Absolutely.
And to take it one step further is then you understand which need or which let's stick with the human need. Which human need is causing the other person's reactions or the other person's behavior.
So understanding theirs as well as yours and the interaction between the two.
Yeah.
Especially in personal relationships, it really helps, I think.
In personal relationships
and professional,
in a way, in all our social interactions, understanding these personal needs makes a huge difference, and in the workspace as well.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a position of influence, where you're able to influence personal growth within the workplace. So,
especially if you're in a leadership role. You have a team that you're leading, or you are the common goal, of course, is to accomplish the project or whatever. But if you have a team that you need to keep together, focused on that particular project, then personal human needs come into interplay there too,
and makes a huge difference in people's lives. Personally and professionally, because progression is very important for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we can influence progression in people's lives, then we know that we are contributing to to the world going around, so to speak. So like they say, love makes the world go round. So this love and connection and a little bit of knowledge and influence
helps to have better interactions, meaningful interactions, right?
Yeah. Apart from the interactions, yes, of course, we don't realize it, but it naturally creates this pay it forward kind of an approach.
Yeah.
So that, and I think we mentioned it sometime in one of our previous discussions, the ripple effect.
The ripple effect.
Yes.
Which is so, because that's what becomes the focus, right? Is how you take it forward, like you said, pay it forward, and that's how you make a better world.
Yeah. Right.
Charity begins at home, and then it goes further, and you make a difference in people's lives. So absolutely, it's actually, it can go on so many levels, this particular quote. I want to repeat it again. Should I?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Beneath every behavior, there is a feeling, and beneath each feeling is a need. And when we meet that need rather than focus on the behavior, we begin to deal with the cause, not the symptom. This can be on so many levels, on a worldly level, on a personal relationship level. So many layers to it.
And we've got to peel away the layers to arrive at the feeling or the need behind the behavior.
The self-awareness is so important. The being mindful about your interactions and about your behavior is so important.
Yep, and just to recap, since we're on, we're at this juncture in the discussion. Just to recap what we've been talking about as being some of the key elements in identifying the needs. Is one is having an honest self-appraisal, having a real in-depth self-reflection about ourselves, who we are, what we want from life, what makes us the kind of person that I am today. So the honest self-assessment, it has to be honest, because we need to be able to identify pretty simply what really makes us brings out the good in us, and what also triggers the areas that we need to change.
Because there's always, we have to consistently grow. You can't just say this is who I am and I'm not going to change it all. You grow with life's experiences, you grow and you adapt to different circumstances. I mean, we are in a unique circumstance in the world today, right? We have to be adaptable at all times. Because if the adaptability helps you to blend in and enjoy the process of life, the journey of life.
And that's evolution for us. We've got to understand that evolution is not about survival of the strongest or survival of the fittest, but it's always been about survival of the most adaptable. And adapting to the changes in our environment is what's going to see us through all kinds of times, good and challenging, like
what we're
experiencing right now today. That's not in our control. That's the main thing. It's not in our control, but we've got to roll with it. We've got to go with the flow.
Talking about one of the human needs, the need for certainty, right? Right now, that is the one that's being challenged the most, because certainty is not
It's not certain.
It's just not something that, on any level that, we don't know how much more time, what. So just accepting the fact that yes, then recognizing how much do I depend on certainty, or in other words, control, right?
Yeah.
And if I cannot control the circumstances, that they are completely beyond my ability to control, then how am I going to adapt to it? And so the need becomes control, certainty. It's not available. Your need is not being fulfilled. It's going to change your behavior.
It's going to change your behavior. And what's the first thing that you're going to learn? You're going to learn how to adapt. You're going to have to learn new things, new skills that will help you to adapt. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's part of your self-assessment, self-appraisal, and we're all going through the process.
Yeah. In different contexts, but the bottom line is the same, right?
Yeah.
Because certain level of certainty we all want as humans, but we're getting a bucket full of uncertainty, and we need to say, I trust, and it will will work out.
Yeah. And given that circumstance, the need to stay grounded becomes very important.
Very important, absolutely.
Because when we stay grounded, then we are more open and more objective to learning new things. And moving on from a particular situation or from a particular level or phase in our lives where we might have felt unassailable or untouchable, or we had reached a point where everything was so cool and change was not necessary.
Yeah.
And perhaps had this COVID situation not arisen, there would have been no change.
Yeah.
So it is important to stay grounded and to be open.
And going back to for some who thrive on certainty, and just in case there is there's a symptom of not sleeping well or not eating, recognizing that these could be as a result of the lack of the need being fulfilled at this moment in time. And of course, we're not, so reaching out for where you could feel a little more love and connection will help you feel a little more comfort.
So as much as we want to receive the love and connection, we should also remember that there are many people out there whose lives could change with a simple word or a simple action that's given with love. Like Mother Teresa said, we don't do big things. We do little things great love.
With great love, yeah. And so bottom line comes down to self-love, unconditional love for others, and recognizing that everybody has certain needs, and when the needs are probably not getting fulfilled, the behavior comes up strongly. Particular behavior, conditioned behavior is coming up strongly. So anything else that you want to add, or we want our some interaction, like maybe some questions from our audience, we would be happy to answer.
Yep. So please do send in your comment or your questions, and
whether you're on live with us, or even if you're listening into the recording, if some question comes up for you after hearing our discussion, then please send it to us, and we'll be happy to answer that for you. If you're listening into the recording and you're not here with us now. Sorry, you were saying something.
Again, just to reiterate what we were talking about, to concise everything, to recap the discussion, to arrive at the feeling beneath beneath the behavior, the need beneath the feeling, and we need to ensure that we self-reflect and we have this honest self-assessment, right? We stay well grounded. And most important is that we are able to connect the dots from past experiences and situations that has given rise to emotions that may not have served us well,
or not got fulfilled, and hence we continue with them.
Right. And we, in doing so, we peel away the layers that we pile on one on top of the other, simply to protect ourselves. And when we peel away the layers, yes, there is a feeling of vulnerability, but that's only to be expected. And that vulnerability helps us to arrive at our truth.
True. Because that's what the journey of life is, to arrive at our truth, to really feel fulfilled there within ourselves.
And once we feel fulfilled within ourselves, we're that much more closer to understanding our life's purpose.
Absolutely. Brings us closer to that. That's nice. That's good. Right. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you. What else? Anything else we want to add for today? We good?
I think we're good. Is there anything that you felt was key to that came out of the discussions?
No, I think you put it together very well. Like the self-awareness, peeling off the layers, joining the dots. These are the key things that keep you mindful of your behaviors and where it's stemming from.
Right.
Sorry, needed some water. Okay, with that note, take care of yourself and stay positive, stay self-aware. Is that the right way to put it?
Stay self-aware.
Stay self-aware. This is a much needed time to keep your awareness going. So with that, we leave you, and I'll see all of you on Facebook next week. And I will see you on Sunday, but on my Graceful Reflections page. But I will be putting the post out, and we'll connect on our Seeds of Thought in 2 weeks' time. Right?
Absolutely right. And yes, thank you for the closing comments. So good, and thank you so much for these tips. Yes, you're more than welcome. And this is not the end of it. So if you do have any questions, or you have something to share with us as well, please do so, and focus on ourselves for self-awareness. Absolutely. I just want to add something. Self-awareness, but application, applying it, applying it is important. Okay, so
Yeah.
so thank you for that, and we hope that we've been able to contribute to progression in the world today.
Yeah, planted a seed of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, take care. Have a great day or evening wherever you are, and see you soon. Bye. Okay, I have to come closer to the phone to stop the live. All right, so I'm going to lean in. Oh, where do I go? It's not giving me options today.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, now I should.